It seems like everybody has an opinion on the Florida Gators football team this year with how many games they'll win. Even Vegas has one, and we're about to get into it only here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olson. You can find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports. That is WHOLENINE Sports. And before getting into today's content, also GiantsCountryWrestling.com. What am I doing? It's still new to me. Before getting into today's content, just ask you like, subscribe, comment, review, whatever. Just let me know how I can make the show better, please. And then we can have more fun with it. But we're going to take a look at the Florida Gators win total for this season, according to BetOnline, what the over-under is for that. We're also going to look at four more teams. Florida State and Miami for the in-state rivalry, and then Georgia and LSU because I hate them and we play them. So we're going to talk about that one a little bit. We'll look at the probable wins, probable losses, and probable toss-ups. That is more my opinion than anything else because, well, betting lines aren't out for all those games right now. But for the Florida Gators, the win total, the over-under from BetOnline is set at 6.5. So 6.5, meaning that they will win. If you think they'll win, if you're not into gambling, if you think they'll win 7 games, you bet the over. If you think they win 6 games, you bet the under. That's why it's 6.5, so that you can kind of go on either side of that one. The probable wins, South Florida, for me, is the first probable win of the season for the Florida Gators. Then it's Tennessee. And also, I get like people like, oh, Tennessee's on the rise. Tennessee's doing this. Tennessee's doing that. They say that every year. It's like Texas is back. It's like we get it. You think like you're hyping it up. We get it, but until you actually prove it to me, I ain't buying it. So Tennessee for me is a probable win still. I think it will be pretty close because I think that offense can put up points, but at the same time, I think Florida's going to be more of a defensive team this year. So we'll see. And it's also weird because a few years ago it was Florida's defensive team. 2 years ago it was Florida's an offensive team. Last year it was, Florida's a football team. This year, I think we're going to be more defensive focused. I think the defense is going to carry us more than anything else. After Tennessee, the next probable win for me is Eastern Washington. I think that one's pretty easy to say. Then we have a little break. Then we have Missouri is a probable win. Vanderbilt is a probable win. And I think the closest probable win is going to be Florida State. Mainly because I think that Florida State's one of those games where you just look at it and you go, well, it's probably going to be close because it's a rivalry game. So, and we've spoken about that before. We say when you get to a rivalry game, you pretty much take your logic, you take your scheme, your evaluation, your talent, whatever it is, you take it all, you throw it out the window. That's how rivalry games tend to work, where you say, well, we throw it out the window, but it's still a probable win. We could still sit here and say Florida should win this game. And I'm simply put just not high on Florida State this year, which we'll talk about more in the next segment a little bit. But yeah, Florida State, Mike Norvell has proven nothing to me. Jordan Travis, I like what he could do, but you kind of got to start piecing things together, man, if you want anybody to really buy in on you. They lost their best defender in Jermaine Johnson, their best player in Jermaine Johnson, and they're just a team that, like last year, they didn't impress me. This year, I don't think from preseason outside looking in, I don't think they look much better than they did last year. I think Florida looks considerably better than they did last year, and Florida won that one. So that's kind of my approach to it. The probable losses for Florida, Georgia, which is obvious. I wanted to put this one in the probable toss-up because, we talk about, I just talked about rivalry games. You throw everything out the window, but Georgia's Georgia this year. I think they will be worse than they were last year, uh, but I still think they're going to be very good. Maybe next year they'll drop off a little bit, just because it's one of those things where they had an insane recruiting class, ton of NFL talent, 15 draft picks this past season. But you're also at the point where I don't think you can maintain that level of dominance. And even then, last year, like they had cracks. Georgia had cracks throughout the team that could have been attacked. Where even Florida, like until those final 2 minutes or so before halftime, Florida was very much in that game, and then it just got away from them with turnovers. So I think that Florida could keep it close with Georgia, but I think it's a probable loss this year still, especially while Florida's still in the rebuild. Um, and Texas A&M is similar to Georgia in the sense where we just go, well, they have a ton of talent. Like they just recruit so well, and they play it kind of safe where they're not a risky team where they can kind of shield their weaknesses with their passing attack or whatever it might be. They've got great dynamic playmakers with the ball in their hands. And I think their defense is going to carry them a bit this year, which is kind of what I'm expecting from Florida and what we'll see from Georgia. So I think Texas A&M is a probable loss, but I think that one will be pretty close. Again, I'm not super bought in on Texas A&M. I don't care for Jimbo Fisher. I don't think I don't like him that much. But it's also like I think he's incredibly overrated. Um, but I think they're similar to Georgia, where they just recruit really well. Really well. They develop pretty well, and they've got enough talent where they should win this game. Probable toss-ups are Utah, Kentucky, LSU, and South Carolina. I've spoken about South Carolina before, where I think they're going to be better than some people are giving them credit for. I'm bought in on Coach Shane Beamer. They've got Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma is in there, and Austin Stoner, the tight end, came from Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler to South Carolina. LSU is a game where it's just always a toss up with them. Utah start the year. Um, I think it'll be pretty close. I believe Florida's favored right now, and I think it'll be pretty close throughout that game, no matter who wins. And Kentucky plays Florida close pretty much every year. We'll see how it is without Dan Mullen and with Billy Napier at the helm now. But Kentucky's a probable toss-up for me, also because I feel like a lot of people are hyping up Kentucky because everybody's hyping up Will Levis right now. And it's like, well, he's not that good in my opinion. Like he's all right. Like he's a good college quarterback, I guess, but he's getting all this NFL draft hype, and it's like Todd Grantham put him in a box last year. So I don't get the hype around Will Levis or Kentucky, but I think that game will be close. I think Florida will walk away with it, but again, probable toss up. I'll keep it close. Going into our next segment, we are going to take a look at two in-state rivals in Miami and Florida State. Opposite order there. We're going to talk about Florida State first and then Miami. But first, a quick word from Rock Auto, because today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. I went to an auto parts store this past weekend because I had to get my inspection. I was like, well, I might as well get this thing fixed. And the person was like, way too aggressive. I was just like, okay, then, never mind. I'll walk until I get it fixed, until I get things shipped in. So deal with that. But you have computers and phones with access to rockauto.com. Very easy to use. Even I can use it. And I don't know jack diddly squat about cars. So if I can use it, you can use it. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know exactly who sent you, with amazing selection and reliably low prices and all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. I am going through it right now with allergy season just whooping me. But Florida State, we're going to talk about their BetOnline win total. Their over-under right now, just like Florida, is set at 6.5. Yikes. I could tell you now that I will be taking the under on that. I don't think that Florida State will win that many games. And I think they're probable wins. are kind of easy. Kind of like just looking at it, you go, well, that should happen. Um, Probable wins. First one is Duquesne. I think that one is about as easy as it gets when you're looking at Florida State. But who knows with them, because we saw them last year, so who knows? But I think probable one will be Duquesne. Um, Boston College is a probable win. I don't think they're very good. I like Phil Yurkovich, but I don't think that the rest of the team is good enough. Um, then we got Georgia Tech and Syracuse are the probable wins for me for Florida State. Georgia Tech is a team that I'm not bought in on. I think that they're climbing up, but it's just so gradual and slow to climb up for them. And I mean, you're in state competing with Kirby Smart in recruiting. It's impossible to win that battle with just the Georgia Tech resources compared to Georgia. Syracuse is Syracuse. It's very hard for them to be relevant again or to be a good team. Looking at FSU's probable losses, LSU is up there for me. I don't think LSU is a very good team, but I think FSU is a very bad team. So I'm there with LSU. Louisville, I think that one is just going to be which Cunningham shows up. Sorry, I'm just calling him Cunningham because I forget what he's going by right now, Malik or Mikhail. I know he's flip-flopped a few times. So I think that depends on which Cunningham shows up. But if it's even average to above average Cunningham, that's an easy win for Louisville. Clemson, say what you want about DJ Uigalele, but Clemson's better than Florida State, and Florida, I think, will beat Florida State. I said that last segment. I'll say it every day. I don't care. I think that's very easy to say. Well, Florida should win that game. Because Florida State's not very good. And Florida State probable toss-ups. I put Wake Forest on here. I think Wake Forest will win the game. But something about the way Wake Forest plays, I'm just like, Florida State's going to keep it close with them and maybe sneak away with it. NC State, I'm not bought in on. Miami is just one of those, ACC rivals, in-state rivals. It's one of those things where I talked about last segment where you look at a rivalry game and you go, well, you see the logic that we have here, the reasoning that we have this. Take it, put it in a box, dump it out the window because it's just no holds barred. Anything could happen. So I think Florida State and Miami are a toss-up. And then Louisiana Raging Cajuns, which Billy Napier, woo! Michael Desormeaux is the head coach now with the Raging Cajuns, but this is still a Raging Cajuns team with the huge majority of their players being Billy Napier products and Patrick Toney products, and the systems are going to be very, very similar to what they were last year. So I think next year Louisiana might be worse than they were this year, or than they will be this year. But I think they're still Sun Belt contenders. So that's why I have a probable toss-up. I think Louisiana Raging Cajuns are going to be better than some people are anticipating with the drop-off from Billy Napier to Michael Desormeaux. But you got players getting better. You've got talent building. You've got talent developing, obviously, from coming over or from like high school recruits that are just getting better now that were recruited by Billy Napier and Patrick Toney and all those guys. I think the scheme will be relatively the same, which the scheme is what made that team great. So I think that that's a toss-up. Miami, I did not think that I'd go this way, but their BetOnline win total is 8.5. I took the over. I didn't think I would when I saw 8.5, and I looked at their schedule, and I was like, well, I get it, because Miami's probable wins, Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, Middle Tennessee State are the first three that are like, all right, dude, like, what are we even doing here? Those are easy dubs. Then you got North Carolina. I didn't think North Carolina was good last year. They're going to be worse this year, I think. It was 2 years ago, like 2020, they had all their weapons. Last season, they just had Sam Howell, and they lost all their weapons. And Sam Howell carried them to victory by running the ball. This year, they don't have their weapons. They don't have Sam Howell. I'm not bought in on anything with North Carolina. So I'm giving Miami the probable win there. Then Virginia Tech. I mean, that team right now is just not good whatsoever. So I think from the coaching staff through the roster, not promising right now. So Miami's going to take a win there. Duke is Duke. And Georgia Tech, like I said, Georgia Tech is so hard to build that program and develop that program, where I think you got to go, well, Miami should win that game. And then probable losses for Miami, Texas A&M, which, yeah, Clemson, which, yeah, and then Pitt, which even then, Pitt's. I'm moving Pitt to the probable toss-ups. I think that losing Jordan Addison, even though you added Keaton Slovis, is like no sum there. like you added a good quarterback, so you added a good player at a premium position, but then you lost a great player at a slightly less premium position. So I think that yeah, Pitt's a probable toss up along with Virginia and Florida State. Florida State again, you just take all everything you know and you throw it out the window. And Virginia is just a team that I think in the ACC is going to be surprisingly improved. So I think Virginia is going to be up there with Miami and Florida State. I think they'll keep it close with Miami, Virginia. Miami will keep it close with Virginia, Florida State, and Pitt. But those are the probable toss-ups. But for me, it's just having so many easy games. Miami's got Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, Middle Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Duke, and Georgia Tech. Those are 7 probable wins, along with 3 toss-ups. One, I think they will beat Florida State. And then, I mean, if you could walk away with either Pitt or Virginia, that's your win total. So I think it's fair to go with Miami there for the over-under. We're about to take a look at Georgia and LSU. But first, a quick word from BetOnline, because today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline, which is where you can find all of these win totals. You want to bet the over or under on Florida 6.5? Do it at betonline.net. You want to bet the over under with Florida State and over under 6.5 wins? Do it with BetOnline. You want to take Miami over under 8.5 wins? Do it with BetOnline. You want to take Georgia with to be determined? Listen to the next segment to find out. Do it with BetOnline. Or if you want to take LSU with to be determined, listen to the next segment to figure it out. That's how you can do it. All on BetOnline. BetOnline, you can bet on not only sports, you bet on reality shows, award shows, TV shows, politics, economics. And I'm bringing this back because I got a YouTube comment for it yesterday. And so shield your ears if you don't want to hear it, but it's back. You could bet on almost anything with betonline.net. Check out BetOnline. It's where the game starts. To wrap up today's show, we're talking about Georgia and LSU's win totals on BetOnline. Starting off with Georgia because it's the easiest one. Their win total set at 10.5, and I'm taking the over. Georgia's probable wins, all of them. Just all of them. And Georgia's a fantastic team this year, as much as I hate to say it. I think they're slightly worse than last year. But I think they're still going to be a very good team because they are Georgia. They recruit very well. They coach safe. Like I said, maybe next year they'll be worse than they were this past year. And maybe next year they'll be worse than they were going to be this year. But for now, they're still a very good team. My bigger concern for Georgia, and I've talked about this a few times now, where my bigger concern for Georgia in terms of maintaining success is not about the ability to bring in talent. It's not about the ability to recruit players. It is about the ability to seamlessly transition from coordinator to coordinator. Because yes, I mean, they lost Dan Lanning from their defensive coordinator from last year, so maybe their defense will be worse this year. They've got Todd Monken still. He probably won't be here much longer if he wants to go to a head coach job or an OC job in the NFL or whatever it might be. So I think that the harder part for Georgia is to continuously change your coordinator without having a drop-off. Which, yeah, people have argued, like, Georgia's been losing coordinators. Well, last year was the first year they won Jack Diddley squat, so I don't care about how often they've lost coordinators. Last year was the first year they did anything great. So I think when you look at Georgia, if you can continually change your coordinator and continually find success, then you're looking made. But if not, then you're going to have a tough one. I did put Georgia probable toss-up as Florida again because, like I've been saying, like I don't care about last year's game. I think Florida is very close to it and some kinks in the team there. But this game should be a toss-up. I'm still so torn on putting it as probable winner, probable toss-up. I know with Florida, I was like, it's a probable loss for Florida. but I want to put it as probable toss-up so bad just because I know this game is one of those games where you look at it and you just throw everything out the window and you go, it's going to be a cluster, you know what, and we're just going to figure it out and have some fun with it. So Georgia over 10.5 for me. I think that it's just going to work out for them again this year. Maybe not national champions, but I think they're going to be a very good team again this year. Looking at LSU, their over-under is set at 6.5. Also, third time today that we've had a 6.5 over-under. Third time, three segments, one in each segment was 6.5. And this is the second time that I'm taking the over. The only one I didn't take the over was Florida State. And hear me out, because I am not at all bought in on LSU. I am not at all bought in on whoever their starting quarterback is, whether it's Miles Brennan or Jaden Daniels. I am not at all bought in on Brian Kelly. But their schedule, LSU's probable wins, Florida State, easy dub. Southern, easy dub. Mississippi State, not easy dub, but I think it will be a dub. New Mexico, easy dub. Tennessee, not butting on them either. Think LSU's just got more talent on the roster. UAB, easy dub. LSU's probable losses, I have Ole Miss listed there. I think when you look at Tennessee and you go, well, this offense can put up points. They could do this, they could do that. Yes. When you look at Ole Miss, you go, well, this offense can put up points. They go up tempo. They do all these creative things. They can do this, they can do that. I think Ole Miss is going to be able to run the ball down anybody's throat this year. Anybody that they choose, they could just do it to them. I think that both Tennessee and Ole Miss are like, yeah, we're going to score points. We're going to go fast. We're going to do this. I think Ole Miss has better talent and a better coaching staff to get it done. So I'm going to put Ole Miss as a probable win against LSU. So LSU probable loss. LSU also probable loss. Alabama. I mean, come on. that one's very easy to say. That Alabama should walk away from that game with a win. LSU probable loss. Also, Arkansas is another team that I'm putting there. I'm not super bought in on Arkansas being this top 15 team again. But I will say they'll be better than LSU, I believe. And Texas A&M, again, just a ton of talent on that team. LSU probable toss-ups. Obviously, Florida's over there, as they always will be. Like I said, rinse, repeat, rivalry, chuck it out the window. And Auburn, because I think Auburn is one of those teams where they've had quite a bit of turnover over the past 6 to 8 months in the coaching staff and in the roster. So it's about what is going to be the product that gets put on the field. But I think that, both teams, I'm not sold on their quarterbacks. I'm not sold on their head coaches. I'm not even sold on their coordinators. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So I have Auburn as a toss-up for LSU and Florida as a toss-up. But I'm taking the over because it's Florida State, Southern, Mississippi State, New Mexico, Tennessee, and UAB. And that's 6 wins. If you win one of the toss-ups, or if you could sneak out with a probable loss into a win, that's your over right there. As long as you win the games you should win, and you sneak away with another one, that's your probable win, or that's your win total. So I think LSU at 6.5 is pretty dang favorable for them. Thanks for ranking Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more on your Florida Gators. Now make your second listen Locked On SEC, hosted by Chris Gordy of Sports 790, who, by the way, has some insane things cooking on Locked On SEC daily. Great interviews, great content. One of the best hosts we've got. He's just phenomenal. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole 9 Sports. That is WHOLE90 Sports. And GiantsCountryofSI.com, which for the Gators fans, talked about Kadarius Toney in yesterday's article. So be sure to check it out. And I will see you all tomorrow.